seems like the quota is more of a function of the sales cycle as opposed to anything else. Like if you can close a deal, if it's a one call close, I could see a weekly making more sense. You're not going to put an enterprise salesperson on a weekly quota. It's probably going to be on an annual quota, possibly even longer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to know whether it is a function of sales cycle or a function of average sales price, because those two tend to be very highly correlated as well. Mm-hmm. My rule of thumb tends to be that as long as you can close at least 5 deals during a quota period, then that's the right quota period for you. So you try to balance, you really want the shortest possible quota period, but one where you can close at least 5 deals during that quota period. To your point, if you are on a weekly quota, well, they better be able to close at least 5 deals during that week. If you're on a monthly quota, they should be able to close at least 5 deals on that month.
Really interesting. I love that kind of shortcut. I'm working with a founder right now to transition from founder-led selling to hiring his first AE. And they've hired us to help hire that AE. But along the way, I'm like, hey, how are they, like, what's your comp plan? And they're based in Europe. And so he's like, oh, it's this much per month. And I'm like, well, first off, Canada generally operates on a, annual OTE basis. So like, let's talk about that. But then 2, how are you going to get to, like, what is the split? Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? Is it 80-20? Is it X, Y, or Z? And okay, let's say they land at 50%. Well, how do you set the quota going from a founder with the founders closed to your expectations for your first AE? Because we're probably going to talk a little bit about this, but everybody knows sales comp plan changes are one of the worst things you can do to a rep, and it's important to get right. So what's your process for working out what that first quota should be? How do you communicate to the reps? Hey, this is what do you communicate to the reps? Is it, hey, this is set in stone? Or is it, hey, we're going to flex this, or we're going to try and, work this to a certain OTE?
Yeah. So, all great questions. And the way that I think about it is that your first comp plan will not be your last comp plan. And your job is not to get a perfect plan the first time. It's to make the fewest mistakes possible the first time. And so it's important to also message that to the rep. Look, this is not going to be your plan forever. I mean, maybe we nailed it. We, 1 in a million got the right plan the very first time, but this is not likely to be your plan forever. And a lot of that has to do with, well, as the company scales, you get additional resources. So you're getting more marketing, you're getting your SDRs, you're getting more leadership, you're getting more inbound leads. And because of that, more is asked of you. One way of setting a target is this concept of quota to on-target earnings ratio, where you take the person's OTE and you multiply it by some number, and that's their annualized quota. So the kind of SaaS industry golden standard has always been 5x. So you say, okay, this person's earning $100,000 on target, multiply it by 5, that's 500,000 that they should sell per year. Well, that's not always right. In fact, it's almost never right to do a perfect 5x. Instead, I would focus on, well, how big is the company? What's realistic? What have you done in the past? And triangulate. That's an okay starting point here. But more often than not, companies that are under $1 million in revenue are closer to like a 3x multiple, because they don't have all of that support. They don't have the SDR function and the marketing and the sales coaching and whatnot. And so those reps are actually expected to do 300,000. And then we triangulate. We say, okay, well, what has been done in the past? CEOs love thinking that, well, I only dedicated 50% of my time to selling, and I sold, $1 million last year. And so they could do $2 million. Well, that's a foolish thing, because founder-led sales, nobody's going to be better than the founder or the CEO than at selling. And so expecting them to do what you do is foolish as well.